So we're here today talking with Karan Malhotra about his guitar teaching. He is a guitar teacher with a profile on FindaGuitarTeacher.com. Karan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Absolutely. So tell us first, where are you located? What state and what city are you in?
I am in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
hmm And is there a particular neighborhood that you are located in Oklahoma City?
I am near downtown,
hmm
Nichols Hills, the Village, and Pensacola Mall.
Understood. And tell us a little bit, if you would, about the guitar teaching climate where you are. Do you find that there's a lot of interest that people have in learning to play guitar where you're located?
I see that there's been a recent spark in terms of that.
hmm
Oklahoma City has been spending quite a bit of money in terms of developing the city, so they've put a lot of money into the arts district. And because of that, there were people coming out with interest in learning how to play guitar or any other musical instrument for that matter.
That's great. And what do you find the kind of styles of music that people are most interested in? And also, just as a kind of follow-up question to that, what styles do you offer as a teacher?
I offer learning classic rock and acoustic,
hmm
but it's also flexible. If the music sounds good, I go ahead teach that and learn it myself too. For
hmm
me, it's about the sound. It's not necessarily about the genre.
Understood.
Um, and in terms of the choice of music that people have over here, it's very broad. It's from classic rock to modern rock to alternative to punk
Uh-huh.
to just country and playing acoustic. So there's a wide variety of interest.
I see. And what's the general age range of your students? Do you find you teach all younger students or adults, or is it kind of a mix of each, or what do you find is the case in that regard?
It's mostly age groups from 19 through 28, 29.
Understood.
So a younger crowd for the
hmm
most part.
hmm
Yeah.
And do you travel to your students' homes, or do they come to you, or do you kind of do a little bit of both, or how does that work?
I've been traveling to the students' homes,
hmm
but I just recently moved into a new place.
hmm
So now I have more space to set up new gear and to be able to offer lessons where I live.
Understood. That's great. And so tell us about your gear. I notice you have a Les Paul there. Is that an Epiphone Les Paul?
Yes, it's an Epiphone Les Paul.
Is that the main guitar that you use to teach with?
I mostly prefer to start out teaching on an acoustic guitar,
Uh-huh.
uh, at least the basics in the beginning.
hmm
That's how I picked up the guitar myself, and I think it really helped me out. So that's usually what I do, but it also depends on the student's interest as well.
Yes.
So it's a balance between the two. But I try to teach students basics on an acoustic first.
I see. And what kind of acoustic guitar do you have?
Right now, I have a Takamine.
Uh-huh.
It's an old guitar. I recently lost my gear, so
Oh,
this is just a
okay.
backup guitar.
Okay.
Um, but I will be upgrading my gear soon too. But this is my main guitar for now.
Nice. And I can hear an amp in the background there. What kind of amp are you playing through?
It's a Marshall amp.
Uh-huh.
It's not quite basic, not quite the most advanced one either. It's somewhere in between.
Understood.
Yeah,
And do you offer your students advice about, purchasing their own gear and guidance in that regard?
absolutely, absolutely.
hmm
I actually have been to Guitar Center with a couple of my students myself and given them advice. And at the end of it all, I just leave the decision to them and
Yeah.
ask them to just try out as many guitars as you can, and you have to feel your instrument. You can't just buy a guitar because someone said, okay, you need to buy a Martin or you
hmm
need to buy an Epiphone. It's going to be your child. You
hmm
need to feel the instrument that you're going to be playing.
Yes.
But I do go to the stores
Uh-huh.
with them and help them, figure out, answer any questions that they might have.
Of course, sure. And tell us a little bit about your scheduling format. How does that work when you teach someone? Do you work with people once a week, or how do you usually handle that?
I am actually a management consultant during the day.
Okay.
So, and recently, actually much more than just recently, I haven't been traveling as much. So I
hmm
get to telecommute, I get to make my own schedule. So that allows me to actually fit in a lot of people who, let's say, are working nights, so they can only make it in the afternoons. So yeah, I can, fit them in my schedule. And then there are people who work 12-hour shifts in the morning and they'd like to just maybe play for about half hour to an hour, want to stop by at night. That works too. It's pretty flexible. My
Understood.
schedule is pretty flexible.
Sure. And can you tell us a little bit about, just in simple terms, what is your approach to teaching a student?
Well, as an in the introductory lesson, what I try to do is I try to go through the basics of the guitar first.
Mm-hmm.
The fretboard, the soundboard,
Mm-hmm.
if it's electric guitar, the knobs, the humbuckers, or whatever pickup that they might have.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you need to know the anatomy of the guitar before you even start playing. Then I go through the basics of the fingers, the finger placements,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
what does each fret and each string mean on the guitar, what
Mm-hmm.
that means to them.
Yes.
That's my approach. In the beginning of a lesson, what I would do is that, and then I have certain formats, and they're all tailored formats. I don't have a piece of paper where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do when I walk in.
Sure.
It's all tailored to the student.
Mm-hmm.
So, beginning of the lesson, let's say I'm teaching them how to learn the C scale. It's
Yes.
basic. After that, I'm going to make them, just practice that for a little bit. Then at the end of the lesson, we're going to try to do a little impromptu jam session ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you keep playing that chord and alternate the notes while you're playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can, and then we just come up with our own melody. I think that keeps the student interested, at the same time getting the basics imbibed in them and learning and still being committed because it is a lot of work. A guitar is fun, but it is still work. It's still a commitment of time,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to love it. So that keeps the student interested.
I see. Understood. Okay, cool. And so, can you tell us a little bit about your background as a musician? How did you get started playing guitar, and what kind of music do you do?
I actually, as a kid, I had always been interested in music, but it wasn't until junior year of high school that I actually picked up a guitar. I tried taking a lesson once or twice, but it just didn't quite work out at the time. So I just started practicing on my own. I watched people play at school, and guitar and drums I kind of picked up at the same time. And something I did that I don't recommend people doing, I skipped a lot of classes in school. I would just be in the
Okay.
music area practicing. That's how I picked up the guitar, and it was mostly rock music that really got to me, that really inspired me. I mean, I listen to all kinds of genres,
Yes.
from Michael Jackson to anybody else.
Uh-huh.
But Guns N' Roses is something that really finally made me feel like, okay, I need to get more committed to this than I am now. And that's the kind of music that I really like and can listen to anytime. It's classic rock. So, that's the kind of music that I play. That's the kind of music most of my students like to learn too. It's they find me based on my interest through word of mouth, and they all come together. So that's my background. I've taught in India. I lived there. I taught
Really?
in Australia. I lived there,
Wow.
and now back
Now,
here.
now you're in the United States.
Yeah.
Wow. You only got a few more continents to go, and then you cover the whole globe if you want. That's great.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Well, we'd love to hear you play some guitar just to get a sense of what your playing is like. Anything you'd like to play would be wonderful.
Sure. This is something that I really like to play on the guitar. It's an Oasis song everybody knows, Wonderwall.
Uh-huh.
It's not quite as hard but it's amazing to listen to.
Sure.
So that's what I would like to play
Please,
today.
please, we'd love to hear some. was great. Thank you so much for playing that. That
Thank
was
you.
great. Well, Karan, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been great to hear about your teaching.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been fun. This interview was fun,
Oh,
and
great. Cool. So we look forward to seeing you again on Find a Guitar Teacher in the future.
absolutely.
All right. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dan. You too. Bye.